Ready to bake up some of this trout that we caught yesterday at the trout farm. But welcome in. This is Cooking with Kevin as part of Almost Anglers Fishing. You're really just in time.
What's up? I thought we were going fishing.
Well, I thought about going fishing, but I thought maybe we'd cook up some of this trout we caught yesterday at the trout farm.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, let's do a little Cooking with Kevin segment. All right, Nick, today we're covering something that has a bit of a mixed reputation in trout.
Yeah.
But I'm going to show you guys some tried and true methods on how you can make this fish at least attempt to taste good. And we'll give it a shot at the end and see what we got. But we've got several different methods here. One of the first things we want to cover is how we clean these beautiful beauties. And we were fortunate enough that the guys at the Mountain Springs Trout Park went ahead and cleaned those for us. But we've got some clean ribs right here that they cut off, and we'll show a little bit of footage here of how they take those pin bones out. We're not pros at this, so I was pretty happy to pay those guys up at Mountain Springs Trout Park to take care of this.
Absolutely.
Let's check out some footage of those guys doing their job. That's some nice trout. There you're taking out the rib bone, the final rib bone there?
No, this is the intermuscular bone.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
See, the spine and the rib lays on top of the meat. It pulls out when you cook it.
Okay.
These go through it. That's why they don't pull out.
Okay.
So now on a fish that size, you could probably just go ahead and gill it, stuff it. Pin bones would probably cook up. You're probably okay. On trout this size, those pin bones are now this tall.
Right.
So they're probably not going to cook up. So if you don't get rid of them or not aware of them, you're going to get a mouthful of them.
All right, thanks guys. Appreciate you doing that. Now we're going to get into the fun part, which is cooking this fish. Nick, you happen to know the 3 most important things in cooking any kind of fish, whether it's trout or salmon or crappie or anything?
Kevin, I do not.
Well, fish has got a lot of its own flavor, so one of the biggest mistakes people do is putting too much crap on there, and it's not good for cooking. There's 3 things that you need for a good fish, and that's butter, salt, and plenty of good seasoning. But when I'm talking about butter, of course I don't mean margarine or anything like that. We got some good Land O'Lakes real butter, plenty of it, never be too afraid of the butter. And when I'm talking about salt, I don't mean table salt. I like to use a little bit of kosher salt myself, and I'm going to go ahead and hit some of these with some of that kosher salt because that's going to get a nice dry brine going. And by dry brine, obviously I mean I'm not soaking these in any kind of wet marinade, but instead I'm just brining them with salt, which is going to help draw some of that moisture and juice out of the fish. You can also use a pink Himalayan salt if you want to do something like that. Just stay away from table salt because it tends to really dry stuff out and doesn't do a good job from there. The next thing that we talked about was plenty of good seasoning, but the right kind of seasoning. I mentioned, don't over season your stuff, right? A lot of people like to put various different fancy herbs and stuff, but we're a couple of fat, numb guys that don't know how to fish, so all I've got is some pre-mixed seasonings, but we're going to try a lot of different stuff out today. I've got straight from the Mountain Springs Trout Park. I've got some nice seasoning here that's primarily going to be sugar, cornstarch, cornmeal, a little bit of garlic powder and stuff in there, which is pretty good. And then I also took some of this at Johnny's recommendation, remember, from the Trout Park, and I mixed some of that in with some cayenne pepper too to come up with a spicy version of that. So we're going to try both of those. And then I'm going to do a traditional blackened, which is just really any Cajun seasoning that you can find. Be careful that it's not blackening seasoning, because if you put blackening seasoning and salt together, it's going to be a way over salted deal. So this is Cajun seasoning with no added salt, and then I added some kosher salt on it again. Again, stay away from the table salt. You're gonna thank me if you do. And then another thing I want to try to do today is some of this Pappy seasoning, which is real popular out in California when it comes to doing tri-tips and beef. But instead of being sugar based, this is more paprika and salt based. So I thought that might be pretty tasty to try on the fish. So we're gonna try it out today and see what we've got going on.
Sounds good to
Pretty
me.
excited to try these kinds of fish. We've got about 5 different ways to make them. So let's check out some techniques when it comes to that. Alright, so I'm preparing these fish to go onto our big green egg, which I've got set up with some indirect heat. And what I'm going to put on these last two is I've got some of the Mountain Springs Trout Park spicy seasoning. And I also put a little Tony Chachere's on there. And I'm also, just for fun, going to do a little bit of Pappy's too. So first thing I want to do is I've got my dry brine done. I'm going to add a little fresh garlic to these as well. That gets a little more oil, a little more flavor on there. And don't be afraid to kind of massage that into the fish, of course. Get a little messy, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And then we're going to put our seasonings on. Let's do Pappy's on our little guy here. We're going to try to press that on there pretty good. You know, you want it to really get into the fish, because since we did these fillets open, we can't score the whole fish. We're doing a single fillet side, so that means you got to get as much flavor packed on that one side as you can. And then on Nick's Behemoth over here, we'll do our spicy Mountain Springs Trout Park seasoning. That's got a little bit of Tony Chachere's mixed up in there as well, because I'm pretty happy and pretty excited about how that one's going to taste. And finally, probably the most important thing when you're roasting fish like this is to make sure that you have plenty of butter. And when I say plenty, I'm talking like 1/3 to 1/2 a stick for each fish. Don't be afraid to get in there and give your cholesterol a love letter, because it's going to need it on this fish. What we'll do from there, everything's set up. We're just going to fold over our sides and kind of create a little bit of a tent. I don't want the foil to be sitting directly on top of the fish meat. It's okay to be hitting on the skin, of course. I'm going to create a little bit of a boat so that the fish can sit there in its own juices with all that butter and really simmer and get cooked. We're going to cook it out on a big green egg. I'll meet you outside and we'll talk about how we have that set up. Show you how I got this big green egg set up here. Kind of burp our egg here. For those of you that have one, probably recognize this setup. This is for indirect heat, because I'm not going to try directly grilling these fish. I'm actually trying to roast them, get a little bit of smoke flavor on it. So I've got my indirect heat set on there. I'm going to try to set this big green egg right about 400 degrees. That should take these fish about 20 minutes to cook at 400. We'll check them at about 10 to 15 minutes just to make sure we're not getting too overdone. Make sure that meat's falling off the skin. When it's perfect, the meat just kind of flakes right off the skin without any effort. A perfect little fork scrape. So that's what we're looking for. Let's get these on here and get them cooked up. Oh yeah, baby. Good haul. So I think we're ready to do a little bit of pan frying on our other fillets that we got here. And I did a couple of each. I've got 2 here with the nice Mountain Springs Trout Park seasoning. And I did a couple more that we're going to do more in traditional homemade Cajun seasoning for blackening, added with a little kosher salt. So the only rule that doesn't really apply to these that we talked about before is all the butter, because we're going to use just a little bit of butter as a medium in our pan. So let's head over here. I've already got my pans good and hot. Maybe a little too hot. If you see the smoke coming off of them, you may cause yourself to get a little smoke alarm, which we might get here in the house. Electric cook stops are better for that, so I'm just going to let that butter cook real quick. Not too much though, because if that butter gets brown, it's going to burn it and make your fish taste a little bitter. So we're just going to go real quick on that butter. We'll bring our fish over We know we got good hot pans. These have been preheating for a while. We're going to put it right on top of that butter on that one and get one of our blackened in a deep cast iron skillet. Some folks like to avoid a little butter when they're doing blackening, gets them a little more of a crust. Personally, I like the butter taste, so that's the way I use it. Another good way to do this is to always make sure that your cast iron skillet is good and hot before you put that fish on. Otherwise, that cold fish on a cold skillet takes a long time to heat up. I'm going to tend to these. Let's get them tested out here in just a few minutes. Let's give these fish a check on the big green egg, as it's been about 10 minutes or so that they've been on. So we'll burp it there. Our temperature's holding right about that 400 degrees surface level that we like. Let's open it up, get a shot in there. Boy, see that butter is starting to cook up real nice. We're almost there, but I can tell just by looking at it, just a little bit in the feeling, it's still got a little bit of a sponginess to it. So it's not quite there, but it's getting close. I'm feeling some of that flakiness also. So we're gonna give these about another 5-10 minutes, see where we come out from there, and then we'll be in good shape. Now when you're pan frying the fish from this end, sometimes it's a little harder to tell when they're done or not, especially when you got the skin on, because you're not able to see when the meat's getting white. But the best way that I can do it is just by feeling here along the spine, and that'll tell you how mushy it is. And it's a really silly trick, but if you put your finger just like this and feel that meat, as you move closer to your index finger, it gets softer. And on this trout, of course, you want it to be fully cooked. So if you put your pinky and your thumb together and squeeze that, that's the kind of tendency you're looking for. So when you push it in there, you can feel, all right, I've still got a few minutes left, because right now, in steak terms, I'm sitting at about a medium rare. So we'll keep cooking these up for another few minutes, then it's time to taste them. Alright, we're losing some daylight here, so let's go ahead and take a look at our fish. I think we're in pretty good shape based off the time, but there's nothing like giving it a good little test. Look at how open that is. What I'm looking for is that fish to just come right off the skin, just like it's doing right there. See how flaky that is? That means this fish is perfect to plate up. Let's plate it up and get some meat on. Without further ado, Jada, I got blackened right here, and that's pan fried with the stuff from the Mountain Springs Trout Park. Then I've got Mountain Springs Trout Park on these two, roasted in the big green egg, along with a little bit of Cajun seasoning or Pappy seasoning on that one, and then the spicy Mountain Springs Trout Park seasoning on this one. So
Also, it looks good.
looks good, smells pretty good, plenty of butter, plenty of flavor.
Smells good.
What do you think it's gonna be like?
I'm not even sure. They're all the same seasoning, aren't they?
No, it's all mixed different seasonings. That one's going to be a little spicier. That one's going to be a little bit sweeter. This one's going to be a little bit on the spicier side, as is this one. These two are going to be a little bit sweeter.
All right, give it a whirl.
Give it a shot.
Me
Let's
first?
see what we
Let's
got.
see your first impressions.
I don't know how I'm supposed to get this.
Just it'll flake right off there.
I'm going to try some of it just to show her how it's done here.
Just dive in.
Dive in. That's some blackened trout right there. I gotta say, the blackened trout turned out fantastic.
Really?
It's actually really, really good.
Hook into it,
I mean,
Jay.
that's really
Let's
good.
see.
That's not bad, is it?
Not bad at all, huh? I'm gonna try some of this roasted that we put the pappies on.
That is pretty good.
Great job, Kevin.
We're gonna see what this pappies taste like on here.
That is delicious.
That is good.
The pappies is also really nice, really nice.
Let me try it. Man, that is really good. That blackened.
Yeah, get you. That stuff's good. And then I want to try a little bit of the. This is Johnny's special seasoning.
That's got a good zing to it.
Yeah, that's that pappy seasoning. I was
Whew.
I was questioning whether or not I wanted to try that,
That has got a bite,
but
buddy.
I'm pretty happy it did. This is Johnny's special seasoning that we learned yesterday at the trout farm.
Okay. That's got a kick, doesn't it, Jada?
That one's a little salty. We might try that one because that one turned out a little bit saltier than I'd like
It's
to
like
see.
it's like battery
Pass
up
me my drink,
bacon.
Jada.
That's pretty
That's
good.
good.
Spice, buddy.
And then this is the big fish she caught. This is the big one. Sometimes bigger fish doesn't always taste so good. I did this one with Johnny's special seasoning. Added a little cayenne pepper at his direction. Butter and garlic. That
it
was
good?
pretty good too. Yeah, give it a shot.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if it's as good as the blacken and as good as the poppies.
It's
or
good.
Pappies, but it's pretty darn good.
It's really good, actually.
I don't know what happened there. What the flip? Oh, it's good enough.
What do you think? What's your favorite, Jada?
Well, we got one more to
look.
try. This is the pan fried with Johnny's seasoning. We haven't tried that yet, which basically turned out like blackened because my pan got a little hot, but
Got the hiccups.
oh man. That seasoning of Johnny's is a little bit salty, so maybe I went a little bit heavy on some of it. But overall,
It's
pretty,
still really good.
pretty
All of it.
darn good.
You know what? I was really nervous about this because, to be honest, everybody that I've ever heard of was like, I don't like trout. I think it's delicious.
It's good.
It's a shame that we cooked all this fish and didn't save any of the 12 some odd pounds that we caught yesterday. But I guess we're just going to have to sit here and eat all of it, so that'll work out. But guys, I appreciate you coming with us. This is Cooking with Kevin on Almost Anglers Fishing. We plan on doing a couple of these, I think. So,
Yeah.
you know, comment, like, subscribe. If there's any kind of fish techniques or cooking techniques that you want to see us try, give it a shot because proof's in the pudding. I think we got this thing down.
Yep.
Thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Keep tight lines.